Hey everyone, welcome back into Mountain Dog Companion. Today we're going to talk about 10 things you should do when bringing in a new puppy into your home. Yeah, we got a long list, 10 things, guys. You know, some of them may seem simple, some of them I think is really going to help you out, especially if you're a new dog owner, never had a puppy before. Just having this list is going to help you out a lot. We'll have the list posted in the link below, so make sure to click that link. But we're going to also just kind of visually show you with Mr. Chase here different things you should do to get ready for your puppy. So let's start with number one. Yeah, so number one, talking about, I mean, kind of the initial thing even before you bring a family, you know, bring a puppy in. Yep. So, I mean, first off, you're setting up a vet appointment first thing. I mean, you place a reservation or you have plans to go see a puppy. You want to call your vet. You want to, you know, schedule that vet appointment. Sometimes some are backed up. I mean, what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Not more.
Yeah, so.
Especially if you're in the city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it just, yeah, I mean, it's difficult sometimes to get in depending on where you're at. And another thing that sometimes is a little bit difficult is like if you haven't been connected to a vet before. Yep. So like you don't have a current pet or you haven't had a pet, and just setting up, like, knowing your vet, getting a relationship built with that vet makes a huge difference. So if you don't have that, it's going to be more difficult for you to get in.
Absolutely. And one of the number one things people ask that they might not need right away, but it is good to know is, you know, they ask the question, you know, what are the vaccinations and deworming that your puppy has had? So obviously you want to make sure that the puppy has had those and are up to date, but kind of explain, like, how should that process work? Like, because sometimes people ask you, can I have a picture of it? Like, does it, maybe that's not a bad thing, but go ahead and explain that question, because that gets asked a lot.
Yeah, so basically what a vet is asking, like, so let's say you call the vet, you're like, hey, you know, can we get a vet appointment on the books? Yep. Get something scheduled. The first thing they're going to ask is the name of the puppy, the age of the puppy, and where you're getting the puppy from, and then the vaccinations the puppy's had. Just to basically get on a good schedule to complete those puppy vaccinations and, you know, get it taken care of on a, you know, proper timeline. So initially, most times when you're bringing a puppy in at 8 weeks old, you're looking at 2 vaccinations. Oftentimes you'll see one at like 5 weeks old, which is normally a parvovirus vaccination. It's kind of the initial one just to give them some protection. Yep. And then the second one would be the 5-way vaccination is kind of normal. And that's normally right around 8 weeks. So most times they're spaced out by 3 weeks. He just wants to get off of this table.
Put you down. I'll hold you.
But yeah, so most times, like for Chase here, right now he'll be ready for his 3rd vaccination right around 11 weeks. So he had the Neopar vaccination at 5 weeks, and then he had the 5-way vaccination at 8 weeks. So that's adenovirus, canine coronavirus, parvovirus, canine influenza, just a kind of a overall all-in-one vaccination. Yep. And then he'll be ready for the 7-way vaccination at 11 weeks. So kind of spaced out every 3 weeks. And then, yeah, most times the puppies will be home by that time or around that time. So most times the rabies vaccination is taken care of later. And then there's like an annual schedule you want to get on.
And I think the one thing we are missing too is, you know, most breeders do require a vet check, you know, within the first 7 days. Sometimes it's within the first 3 business days. And for you as a new puppy buyer, you have to understand that that is important. That's not taking your puppy to get its shots. Yeah. That's showing that your puppy came to you, you know, in great shape, or if something were to happen, you know, stuff can happen, like Giardia, coccidia would be the most common. Yep. Obviously, everybody tries to prevent that no matter who you are. But just to catch stuff like that and take care of it, because when a puppy goes to a new home, it is a lot of stress and stuff can come up. But we do our very best, obviously, to handle that and prevent that. So yeah, that would be to kind of top it off for number one. Don't you think that's a big part of it too? That people don't understand, you know. Yeah. They think I gotta schedule my vet, you know. No, you gotta make sure it comes in good health, and that's where, like you said, schedule it way ahead of time, because, you know, obviously we understand, you know, we'll on our health guarantee, we'll kind of, we'll be understandable if it's later than 7 days, but everybody needs to
kind of a guideline.
Kind of a guideline.
Yep.
Yep. So that's number 1.
And moving on to number 2, talking about feeding schedule, overfeeding, just kind of getting into that portion of it.
The Puppies Diet.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how fast these guys grow. They put on a lot of weight in between ages like 8 and 12. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And
especially if you got big feet like this, you're really gonna fit on some weight.
Yeah. Yep. And it's like it's hard to get a good feel of where they're at as far as like portions, because they're growing so quickly. You're increasing portions. You're kind of, as a puppy, it's hard to really keep a good feel for that. So initially, I mean, the most important thing is going to be high quality puppy food.
And let me ask you a question: do you recommend staying with the breeder's food, or is it okay to transfer to a new food?
Yeah, so I typically recommend staying with it for at least a half year. It's just keeping the puppy, so when a puppy goes from one family to another, to a new environment, new people, just everything's completely new, moving away from litter mates, adding stress of switching food is, something a puppy probably won't want on its plate. For no pun intended, but with that stress level, so it does make a difference, and it's definitely important to kind of stay on that. If it's not available, you can transition out of it very slowly. You can mix it in and transition to something else that's more convenient. But
one thing I'd add to that is there are breeders that have dog food that they make money off of it, so they're going to really want you to try to stay on that food, even if it is a good quality food. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm just letting the people know that is something to understand, just like any business out there. So, for sure,
we don't really have that
with the dog food. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
But and then the second portion of it is having a great schedule. It's kind of in correlation of good habits with potty training, with everything. It kind of combines. So, what we try and do is 3 times a day. For Chase here, he's around like a 3/4 cup per meal, not quite, a 1/2 cup, 3/4 cup right in there. And we'll leave it out for 15 minutes and take it away. And you can bet about 45 minutes to an hour after, or even half hour to 45 minutes after that meal, he'll be going outside and going potty. So, I mean, that itself is going to help you so much with potty training.
Potty training is important.
Yep.
What do you have to say, because this is something for a large breed, and I don't know if it's related to the diet, but with Bernese, larger dogs, there's a term that when they flip their stomach over. You know what I'm talking about?
That's bloat, yeah.
Is that related to diet?
Not necessarily, no. It's more related to, in general, with their chest cavity, how it's shaped, and also if they're stressed out, or like, let's say they eat or drink a lot of water, you probably don't want to go outside and run, go on your evening run or play fetch, because they can, if that stomach's full, it's basically like hanging a towel on a laundry line, and it gets windy and it flips over, so it causes a crease up top. And so with a full stomach, it's got more momentum to be able to flip. So it does kind of correlate with it, but
the biggest thing is the schedule. So whenever you feed your dog, especially when they're older, it happens when they get bigger.
Right.
More likely, right?
Yeah. When they're fully filled out and everything.
Which kind of leads us to our last point, is about don't overfeed your dog.
Right.
It kind of relates a little bit there.
It does, absolutely.
Yep.
And that it kind of goes hand in hand with exercise, feeding schedule. I don't recommend grazing with these guys just because they have a high food drive. They love their food. And on top of that, they're not the most driven dog ever. You know, they're very content, pretty chill. So it does make a pretty big difference on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a good basis of diet and food and schedule that we covered there. So that's number 2, guys.
And moving right on into number 3. So moving into training and socialization, some commands, just kind of getting a good feel, kind of what you can expect with a puppy right when bringing it in, and what you should be kind of focusing on initially. So
when somebody asks, I'm sure you get that question a lot, so how do you train a dog, or somebody's new, like what's the number 1 or 2 things you tell them about training?
So I mean, a great process or procedure to use is positive reinforcement. That's a phenomenal thing. I mean, that's basically if your puppy does something you're asking of the puppy, him or her, you can always give a treat positively, good job, and hand a treat, and that'll really help get their mind rolling that that's what good job means. And it's really helpful, especially with these guys being food driven. Positive reinforcement with a treat will be phenomenal. It'll be probably the easiest route.
That's probably why you should do training probably before you feed them as well, so they're not full. So that they'll do the trained items that you're working on that day.
Yeah, and just some basic commands that they typically catch on to. I mean, obviously the first one that comes to mind is sit.
Yep.
Then you got sit, stay, down, and then a release, whether it's okay, come, or with stay, you can tell the puppy to stay or go to its spot, and then release the puppy with a come or saying their name. So those are kind of the basic ones, and then you can get pretty far into into detail too. So
leash training and so much so forth. But I like to tell everybody the first thing that puppy needs to be trained on is its name. So anytime you talk to that puppy, you need to include the name in the sentence. It needs to learn. And Bartholomew probably is not a good name. Max.
Unless you name him Bart.
Bart. Do Bart. Something that can relate right away with. So learning its name is very important, I feel, in training.
I agree.
Because if they don't know their name, you're not going to get their attention.
Yeah.
Just like kids.
So their ears won't work for a while.
Yeah. But socialization, how does that help training, or why is that, I think, a topic for training?
It just creates a comfortable mindset for the puppy, being comfortable with any kind of person, any kind of environment, situation, just in general. The puppy is relaxed, it's content, it's mindful of its surroundings, and that makes the world of a difference. So.
Yeah, because you're kind of training backwards. If you have a puppy that's in the corner or afraid of people, you're gonna have a lot more difficult time, aren't you, buddy? Which isn't fun. So that's why here, families, we have lots of families that raise these puppies, so they're handling them every day. Kids are important. It's crazy what a kid can do. Us as adults, we do our best. You have to make sure professionally everything's done correctly, but having kids helping,
it's crazy.
It helps a lot.
Puppies getting dressed up and carried around.
They're used to, kids aren't always the gentlest with puppies. You have to obviously teach them, but it's just good, really good to have that trust, and wearing hats and different things that they can get used to.
It's crazy how much of a difference that makes too. A person wearing a hat compared to a person not wearing a hat. It's actually that's just a tiny little detail that they're so intelligent they pick up on it. It's a big deal.
Or if they're used to this is bad, but if somebody would be not doing ethical things with a dog and it has a hat, they'll be afraid of people with a hat.
Exactly.
So they'll recognize stuff like that. So they're very smart, especially the Bernese Mountain Dogs. They're in the top 20 in smartness as far as the breeds
AKC,
go.
So I'm biased. I feel like they're smarter, but that's me. So, but I think they're 22nd on the list, or top. I'm not sure. Is it top 20 or 22nd? I'm not 100% sure. But,
So that's number 3, training. What you need to know when bringing a puppy home for training is number 3.
And diving right into number 4, talking about exercise and routine behind that. What you should be doing, how much you should be giving, and kind of what effect it has on the puppy.
And nap times too, because it looks like he's ready for a nap.
He's about to conk out.
You need playtime exercise, but you also need big naps. So talk about that. What does a Bernese Mountain Dogs playtime exercise and sleep time look like?
Yeah, it's crazy how much puppies sleep as a puppy. They sleep about 75 to 80% of the day. And for him, probably closer to 70% right now. Just he's getting a little bit older. He's 11 weeks old right now, so he'll still sleep quite a bit. Now he's been awake for the last probably 3 hours. He's had a bath. He was groomed a little bit, had his nails trimmed, and he's kind of got his exercise and mental stimulation in, so he's probably ready for a nap. But
he's ready to conk out. You said earlier in the video he was up and didn't want to lay down. Now he's ready to just relax.
Yeah. So. But as far as exercise goes, I mean, they're not the most active dogs. But in general, like, you'll want to check out what you might not be getting a Bernese Mountain Dog. So you'll want to do a little bit of research on the breed, because one breed might, require over an hour per day of just go, go, go. And like the Bernese Mountain Dog, I mean, I typically say anywhere from a half an hour to an hour, depending on the personality and drive of the puppy. And the age, of course. So going out on walks, showing some activity, going out on a leash, whether it's somewhere at a park or even just walking sidewalks in the neighborhood. Just a nice little walk in, and it really helps with joint development too, and just health in general.
Their minds and keeping them sharp, and not always just sitting on the couch. But they are more of a lap dog than some breeds, so a lot of people, don't want that more energetic, and if they don't play with them every day, I get that. Especially if you're older, they'll just be your couch potato with you. But you just gotta watch their weight and stuff like that.
And training counts too.
Oh yeah.
If you're training the puppy, that counts as exercise. So training or exercise is more, almost more of a mental kind of a recess for them. It helps them kind of stimulate themselves. They don't get bored. So training really brings out, like, they have something to think about. They have something on their mind. They're trying to get something accomplished, and it can, it drains them physically.
Yep, mentally and physically.
Yeah, so
that's good.
Yeah.
So that was number 4.
Yeah, and we'll keep on rolling here to number 5. We're going to talk about grooming, what it looks like, what goes into it, what you kind of need to do, and what you can expect with the breed.
And especially when you get them at home, so that first week. So kind of explain, from the beginning, and eventually at the end you can go into some detail. But what kind of grooming initially do people need to understand?
Yeah. So brushing daily helps a crazy amount as far as shedding. And making sure there's no matting going on, making sure there's no hot spots, making sure there's nothing crazy going on. Just a nice overlook, just a quick brushing going over.
No fancy comb or anything, just the normal. You get that question a lot. I know. What kind of comb should I use?
And then just going through, making sure there's nothing in their ears, cleaning out the ear, and your puppy should be comfortable too, with that, and clipping the nails. That's kind of showing that it's always a good practice at an early age when they're smaller, because they're easier to handle. So when they're huge, they'll just sit there and stick their paw out and be cool with it. So doing that early on makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and don't let them get too big. Just little bits at a time is always. Just keep up with it.
And you basically want to go down to where you can kind of see. There's a clear portion of the nail, and then there's like a filled
milky white color.
And you want to trim to that point. So it makes a huge difference.
So you did ear cleaning, you did trimming the nails, you talked about brushing the coat. I think the other parts people want to, is actually like, do people need to shave the hair? When do you shave that? Or do you shave it at all? And just bathing in general, I think, to kind of end this one here.
So as far as the trimming and shaving, you absolutely don't want to shave these guys.
But people do.
I know, but it's super
So don't be controversial here, Jay.
Yeah, it's actually super unhealthy. They have a double coat. So what happens is their body and everything is built to have that double coat and for it to protect their skin. And it's a blue coat, a blue undercoat.
And I guess you should, when you say shaving, what are like?
I'm referring to down to the skin.
Down to the skin, okay.
Like, you don't want to do that.
Or even like that,
Not at all. Now what you can do is you can take scissors and you can just simply trim up, just give a nice grooming, thin it out, especially during the summertime. Like, they'll lose a lot of their coat during the summertime, and then even just trimming that up a little bit will be fine.
Because I've seen groomers where maybe they have it on the biggest trimmer setting and go over the whole body. And that might be when they're like just before shedding, maybe to help with not having the house all
and everything.
Having that, That takes a while to do that. But is that okay for somebody to do that?
If you go to the longest setting, it's okay, but you want to be very careful with it.
Yep.
Just with a double-coated dog, they're not meant to be shaved, so they kind of lose their hair naturally. They're a shedding dog, and so in the springtime and in the fall, you'll see a phase of shedding, and then they really bulk up for the wintertime, or in the summertime, they'll be coatless basically for a couple months. So and then as far as bathing goes, I mean, once every 2 months or so, once every month and a half, 2 months.
Yep.
If you're brushing daily and keeping them in a clean environment, like as far as just not being out in mud puddles, like on your exercise walks, or
that all varies depending where you live. Whether you live out in the country, you might need to do a little bit more. If you live in the city, you're not going to have the outdoor country where they can get in everything.
So it does make a difference on that, but just try and keep a clean coat and everything, and it makes a big difference.
Yep. Another thing I think people ask, so if you do bathe a puppy or a dog, especially a dog, how do you get them dry? Do you just let them air dry? Like, what's the best method for doing that?
So the easiest thing kind of we've found is towel drying, and then taking one of these. You can find them for $50 on Amazon, but these pet blowers, and it's like you don't really want to use a hair dryer because they get hot. So what you can do is take one of these pet blowers and just go through, and it'll fluff them up completely dry. Like it's phenomenal. It's quick. You can get different attachments to it. It's a easy thing to do.
Good investment. They're what, $65 to $125, somewhere around there for a better one.
For a really solid one. So
so that's number 5, grooming.
Okay, so getting into number 6 here, talking about crate training and sleeping arrangements. It's a pretty common question, especially like when you're bringing in a puppy.
So right away you just let it sleep in your bed the whole time. Is that what you should do, Jay?
100%.
Just every time. That's what some people do.
I know, which is fine.
That's cool. What do you recommend?
For me personally, I've had great success with crate training. It's been phenomenal. Sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle with a younger puppy. It's without their litter mates, without their mom, without people in their life. It becomes a little bit of a challenge sometimes initially. But one thing that really helps is putting like a darker blanket over top of the crate and just keeping it very quiet. And they'll find it to be a very nice, safe spot. It's kind of like their own room. So like for me personally, like mine literally, like she'll sleep in the crate, she'll hang out in the crate during the day, like without the door closed, and like during the day she'll grab her doggy bed, drag it out in the middle of the room, and literally like at night she'll take it right back
in.
Yeah,
and that's where she sleeps.
Literally, and like if we step out for a while, like she'll be fine in the crate. She's completely cool with it. We'll just say, hey, Bella, crate. And she's cool with it. It's phenomenal.
So for a new puppy owner, what size crate should they get for a Bernese Mountain Dog? Because that's another huge question you get.
So you
probably top 5 question.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go about 2 different ways.
Top 5 questions you get for a Bernese.
Absolutely, anyway. That's a great video. So maybe clip this. But no, one of the there's kind of 2 different ways to go about it. So with Bernese, they grow so quick. So you can either go extra large, you can get a huge like 4-foot crate and get one with like an adjuster in it, so you can move it. And so bringing in a puppy this size, you'll have a hard time crate training just because they have so much space. So they'll go potty in one corner, sleep in the other. If you have it confined to the point where it's very comfortable, but they don't have the space where they can kind of move around like that. And you can just keep adjusting it as they grow.
Bigger.
Or you can get like a medium crate and have it for a half year, and then actually get their adult crate once your crate training is done. So a medium crate is normally, typically somewhere around 35 inches in length is a good starter.
It's about 3 feet in length, and what, 1.5 to 2
Normally about, I think it's like 24 inches wide or 25 inches wide, and then very similar in height, also like a little bit over 20 inches. So
because you don't want your puppy to go potty in the crate. That's number one thing. You want it to be that's where they sleep, and they're not going to, and to do that because that's just not what they do. So
no one wants to go to bed where they.
But if they have room, they might as well. So. And it's just good too when you do leave for half an hour or 3 hours, whatever. It's good to at the beginning to keep them in the crate. Yeah. Because they're not going to be potty trained yet. I mean, unless they're super smart, and you just don't want them to ruin or chew on any furniture. So it's good to crate train. Yeah. But sleeping in your bed is also, I mean, not a bad idea, right? Yeah, especially after you do the crate training.
Yeah, then you it's just a good thing to have in your back pocket. Honestly, it's a phenomenal tool, and I feel like it's good for the puppy too, to have that freedom, even if it's just during the day.
You just need a king size bed.
Yeah, exactly. Or more.
Yeah, and then also if you do the crate training, guys, make sure that puppy can see the door that it's going to go outside of. So if it's in your bedroom and he has to walk through 3 rooms, hallways, they're not going to hold it. But if they know that they can see where they got to go, it's easier for them to recognize and to know where they need to go once they come out of the crate. Yeah, as what I recommend for that too.
Yep, and then it goes back into training too, positive reinforcement. Yep. Take them outside right when they come out of the crate.
Well, that's right there is a good question. Discipline. Should you put your dog in a crate to discipline them?
No, it should be not initially anyway. It should be a positive thing. Like you want to make them as comfortable as possible initially, and you can if you like later on once they're used to it and it is their safe spot, you can hey, go to your crate if they make a mess or something like that. But other than that, it shouldn't be used as a punishment.
For sure. Yeah. Yep. So that was number 6, I believe.
And we'll keep on rolling here. So while Chase gets his nap in. So keeping going here, number 7, we're kind of touching back on some of the things we have touched on, but going a little bit deeper. So kind of starting things into consistency of taking the puppy outside, the basic potty training portion of it, and just having a consistent routine, I guess. Yeah. So kind of starting things off, I guess.
So house training, you need a routine.
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't really touched on, we've little pieces, but we haven't say having a routine is the most important thing, besides, in my opinion, saying the name.
Yeah.
Yep. So kind of just go through maybe a routine. What's a day like for bringing home a new puppy? Kind of maybe go through that from waking up when you have to and kind of, go through that to the end of the night.
Absolutely. So bringing in a new puppy, I mean, obviously a lot of work. It's a different schedule compared to an adult. But a new puppy, I mean, I guess a day in the life will look like basically
starting in the morning.
Yeah, help 6 a.m. or whenever you wake up. I mean, the first thing is going to be going outside and taking the puppy out to go potty. Coming in, and then normally we do breakfast. So you'll want to do that, 15 minutes of food. So half cup, 3/4 cup for this guy, right after you bring him back in. Of course, positive reinforcement right there.
So you give him the food, and then you take him out again. So it's potty right away, you give him food, then you take him out to go potty.
Yep, correct? About a half an hour after the meal. So, food and water. And then, it's pretty easy in between that. Normally I recommend every 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours going outside just to get that routine going of going outside, getting that schedule down pat.
Or if you see him drink water, because it's easier to go pee first.
Right.
If you drink water, if you do see him drink out of the water dish, probably take him out right away.
Right. Yep.
If it's before that 1 to 2 hour limit.
Yeah. Yep. So around noon, you'll typically want to do the first meal, or first kind of middle meal, I guess, second meal, and then you'll take the puppy outside, go potty, and oftentimes most people do exercise either first thing in the morning or last thing at night, so it's not as hot during the middle of the day. So you can do exercise inside after that second meal. So you can do training, you can work on your commands, your basic stuff, kind of foundational stuff, your crate training. Kind of go into that in the afternoon, and keep in mind, like Tyler said, I mean, if you see the puppy grab a slurp of water, you'll probably want to take him outside pretty soon after. So just the afternoon's typically pretty relaxed. They're very content pups, so they'll just kind of hang out with you. If you're not doing training, they're just typically sitting at your feet or sitting on a counter. And then coming up,
I'll do this.
Yeah. And then coming up to the last meal, I guess, kind of same routine, 5 to 6 o'clock. You'll want to give food and water, and after this last meal, you'll want to take away that water bowl and the food after 15 minutes. And that just helps with potty breaks afterwards. So you really don't have to worry about, having them get up all the time in the middle of the night, just having to go outside because they just had water right before they went to bed. So, and the evening time is a great time to go out on a walk, do some outdoor activities, play fetch, kind of that portion of it. Just trying to get comfortable. And then, right before you go to bed, take him outside, make sure he goes potty or he or she goes potty, bring him back inside, have him in the crate if that's what you're doing initially. And then most times I say take the puppy out one time during the night as a younger puppy. If you follow the food and water schedule and take away that puppy food last thing before you go, or after their last meal.
Around 6 o'clock-ish or something.
You should be completely empty during the night. So you might get one potty break around like 1 o'clock. But for the most part, you're pretty good until 6 in the morning when you restart the whole routine.
Only thing I'd have to add to that is, make it around your schedule too. Like, don't think there's just one cookie cutter. This is the times, It has to be based on when you wake up, when you have certain things in your life, make it, you can mold it around your schedule and, whether you're a night or hour early person, you can mold it to your schedule for sure.
Yeah, and they're very they kind of get used to your schedule, they kind of accommodate themselves to you. So
that was number 7.
Yeah. Okay, so moving right into number 8, we're going to talk about health and safety, and then microchipping, puppy proofing your house. That's a very important thing right before you bring a puppy in.
Do Bernese like to chew on things?
As puppies, absolutely.
Do you think it's from a scale 1 to 10 compared to other breeds? Just off do you think it's more or less than, or give a little number?
I would say probably right in the middle.
I agree.
They're not they're not super chewy. They kind of go through their teething.
I would say bulldog breeds are maybe at the higher end because they have energy and they just for some reason like to chew on stuff.
Yeah, like your higher energy
dog. Yeah.
But these guys, they'll relax. Like you'll put your hand out and they'll start chewing and licking on it. But it's not like a very
spazzy, bitey.
Yeah, but no, puppy proofing your house. So small toys, things they could chew on and get pieces off and swallow. We had a case we just found out through insurance. Someone made a claim to remove a sock from the puppy's stomach, which is kind of crazy. But
hopefully they didn't keep the treats in the sock.
So just puppy proofing it, making sure there's nothing out that you don't want puppy teeth on, whether it's small toddler toys, books, and just making sure they're kind of out of reach.
Another thing with puppy proofing your house, I think, is having an area if you have a huge house especially, you don't want to have that dog go in every location because then there'll be accidents everywhere. So confinement in your house, I think, is puppy proofing so you don't get pee or poop spots throughout your house, especially the first week. Would be a big part of puppy proofing, not just ruining by chewing or scratching, just from
one cool thing I've seen actually people do is have a bar like this, like an island, and they'll put one of those toddler fences right along one side and then block off the other side too, and they have this maybe 30 square foot area where they can kind of roam out when they're
especially when they're gone and stuff too.
So that's one really cool way to go about it, just to not have to block off the whole house. And and then microchipping, I guess that's another big thing. If your puppy gets lost, gets out and just completely shows up at a shelter or a rescue or somewhere, microchipping is a huge and useful tool to be able to track your puppy, be able to know that if a puppy shows up at a shelter or a rescue, your name's going to be there and they can contact you, they know where to find you. And then you have wonderful programs like Global Pet Security too. This little guy's got it on his collar, and it's a QR coded tag. It's developed by a great friend of mine. His name is Paul, and they did a phenomenal job. They developed an app. They have this database. They have a place on the app where you can keep track of feeding schedules, vet documents, training, whole 9 yards. And so basically what happens, like there's tons of companies like this out there, but someone scans that QR code, a phone number will pop up, whether it's yours or your vet's office number or whatever phone number you want to put on there. And then you'll get a notification through the app saying, hey, your puppy was scanned, and it'll drop a pin on a map saying where the puppy was scanned. So you actually kind of can ping it if it's scanned somewhere. So there's just tons of useful stuff you can do with microchips.
That link will be in the bio, guys, because we do actually send these along. So for more information, you can check out Global Pet Security. Especially maybe don't have a puppy with us and you're curious about that company. We know them personally, and they're definitely a trustworthy, but just a more I'd say technical than a normal microchip company. A lot more options with it. So, check that out. So we talked about puppy proofing the house, microchips, anything else with health and safety. Just to tie it up, I don't know if there is or not.
Not necessarily. I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing in the category. And going back to puppy proofing, I mean, it's just if a puppy's outside of what you can see, outside of your vision, you're going to want to make sure where they're at is going to be a safe spot, because they'll literally put their teeth on almost anything. Like they'll chew on it, they'll go out in the grass and they'll start chewing on grass and things like that. So you'll definitely, like, if you're not seeing the puppy, you'll want to make sure you know where the puppy's at and that's a safe environment. So
and I think one thing would be the safety, because it's not health. When you think of health, you think of the structure. We're talking more about preventing your dog from getting run over, eating something. Just anything we do for our kids. We don't want them to hurt themselves. We hope overall their health is great. That's only But I think would be like when you let your dog outside, like whether you live in a rural area, city area, I think is important. So if you live in the city, you can't really have a fence or whatever. But if you do have, a townhouse or in the country, me personally, I recommend the ones that have the radiuses, at least with a radius. The in-ground fences are great too. Those are a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
But those are great. But the more affordable, what I've seen that really works is there's a collar that you can, plug in a radius thing in the house, and then you can set it up based on
a 100-yard perimeter or like a 50-yard perimeter.
And that's just as effective because it beeps before that, just like a in-ground fence would. And that really helps. That's something you need to do when you're getting a new puppy, in my opinion, if you have that room, because it will save you so much stress and just the exercise, letting your dog go out and not just be contained in your house. Is huge.
Makes a world of a difference.
When you're out having cookouts, you can just let your dogs run around and not be worried about your dogs. Like that can be stressful for some people. So that's a good, I think, health and safety tip right there.
Yeah.
Get that thing. I don't know if I have. Maybe we can put a link in the bio of one we recommend. I forget what my brand that I use is, but that'd be a cool thing too. That was number 8.
Moving on to 9, we're going to talk about, when we can have our puppy meet other people, other dogs. When is it okay to bring them outside and, in the park? That's probably another top 5 question that I get all the time.
Yeah.
So,
because we want to make sure, especially if the baby, you want to have them stay healthy, and when they're younger, that's when they're most immune, or if they get something, it can affect them. When we get big and strong, we can fight off stuff.
They don't have the immunity to work with.
Just like people, we get shots at a young age. Same with these guys. Just real quick, briefly, when can a dog go to the park? Let's just use an example as a park.
Yeah, so most times it's after being fully vaccinated.
Yep.
So typically after the rabies vaccination is kind of when that rounds out, and most times there's going to be like about a 1 to 2 week period, and about 10 days before that rabies vaccination is actually in their system. So that's kind of when they're able to go out, meet other dogs, meet other people, be at the dog park, be at the boarding classes or training classes. That's a very typical time frame. It's just like you said. I mean, they pick things up so easily, like communicable stuff. It's so hard to keep it straight, and just keeping that puppy safe is the biggest idea around that. So
I think family dogs are okay, especially if you have your own dogs or close family, you can introduce them.
Yeah, absolutely. But going to the dog park where there's hundreds of dogs.
But public areas, mice droppings, whatever it is,
And that's like Fanny, the flight nanny. Like when she's flying a puppy out, she'll never ever use the service animal relief area in the airport with a puppy. It's just, you're gonna pick something up. And like for me personally, I'd rather have the puppy have an accident in the soft-sided carrier and 100%. Deal with that on the plane compared to going into the service relief area and picking something up. So
it's not worth the risk.
No, not at all.
At all.
So, yep.
All right, that was number 9.
Okay, so number 10, we're going to talk about bonding time and creating the perfect companion temperament. It's kind of everything kind of goes in with each other. On that portion of it, and the more your puppy has a relationship with you, is bonding with you, the easier it's going to be with training. It's going to be easier, to know what your puppy's trying to do, if it's trying to get outside, if it's trying to go potty, if it's not taking in the training. You're
building that relationship that whole time.
Exactly. So, I mean, things that help with that. I mean, you can do like one meal when you're feeding the puppy out of your hand, just to kind of create that bond. Training is going to help a lot, just spending time with the puppy.
Basically doing everything we just talked about.
Yeah, I mean that's going to create a whole...
If you neglect all these things we just talked about, you're probably not going to build a bonding relationship with your dog, right?
Yep. And
especially like if you want that the husband, let's just say, doesn't want to do any of that, and it's all the wife that does it. Who do you think that relationship's going to be with? Probably the wife, right? Yep. And it's vice versa. I just use that as an example.
And it's 100% true. And another thing, I mean, you can't expect a puppy to be happy and healthy and have a great, social temperament if you're going to have the puppy be in the crate 90% of the day. Yeah. Like that's just an unfair, and that's asking too much. So having that time to spend with the puppy, relating with it, just bonding, and just having that companion is going to make the biggest difference, and it's going to make both of your lives easier.
And I think that's a great way to end this video. Is if you don't have the time or the love or passion for your dog, because you're asking yourself, what are the things I need to know when I get a new puppy? If you don't have time for these things, because building that bond is probably the most important thing. Like that's why we do this.
Yep.
So. This is a good checklist to make sure you're ready for a dog. If you're not ready to do these things, you're probably not ready for a dog.
Yeah. Even though, I mean, it is a lot of work, but it's also, I mean, it's well worth it. It's amazing. I feel like every kid should, be along for the ride as far as training a puppy. It's a phenomenal, just patience. Yeah. It's great.
Being a protector for your kid too.
And it's fulfilling. It's amazing to have that family dog, but at the same time, just make sure it's the right time for you. Yeah. And just make sure it's the right fit. Do some research on the breeder. Do some research on, the breed itself. Just making sure it's the right fit for you.
And we're going to have some videos like that coming up, guys, letting you know, is a Bernese Mountain Dog the right dog for you? We'll have video, maybe the things that make it the right dog for you, and maybe reasons not to get a Bernese Mountain Dog. So stay tuned. We're going to keep on producing cool content that you can learn about, not just Bernese Mountain Dogs, but just dogs in general. Yeah. Any informative thing about that. So
I know one that I'm excited about that we're actually just finishing up right now is 5 things to look for when looking for the right Bernese Mountain Dog breeder. So if you're looking for the right breeder, check out that video.
Yep.
We'll possibly, by the time this is finished up, we might have a link for it to put it down down below. So yeah.
Make sure to check out our website if you're interested in any of our puppies. You can go to mountaindogcompanion.com for that. Follow our Instagram, our YouTube channel, subscribe if you haven't already. Reach out to Jay, call, text him, email him. Yeah. Any questions, he'll get back to you.
Yeah, anytime. I mean, it's my personal number, so call me, text me, email. Feel free to reach out, even if it's just questions in general. Feel free to reach out. So yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Kind of wrap things up, and thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time.